Welcome to The Explainer. We are diving into a medical case that is, well, it's pretty wild. It sounds like something straight out of a horror movie, really. It's about a woman who, looking for a new high, decided to inject herself with a ground-up black widow spider. Yeah, you heard that right.
Okay, so let's get right into this. This whole story kicks off with a creature most of us, try to stay far, far away from. The black widow spider. Normally, when you hear about someone in a black widow, it's an accident, right? A nasty surprise when you're cleaning out the garage. But this was different. This encounter was completely intentional and way, way more dangerous.
So think about a normal black widow bite for a second. When one bites you, it injects this teeny tiny amount of venom. We're talking about 0.2 milligrams. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a super powerful neurotoxin, but the dose itself is incredibly small. Keep that number in your head, because it is absolutely key to understanding just how crazy this story gets.
But see, this patient didn't just get bitten. No, she took the entire spider, we're talking venom glands, everything, ground it all up, and then injected it. The result? A dose of venom that was hundreds, maybe even thousands of times more potent than what you'd get from a single bite. Just let that sink in for a moment.
So when she finally gets to the emergency room, this 37-year-old woman tells them exactly what she did. She explained how she ground up a black widow, mixed it with some water, and shot it up, all because she was hoping to get high. And it didn't take long for things to go wrong. Her symptoms kicked in just an hour after the injection.
And listen, those first symptoms, that was just the opening act. Her body was thrown into a full-blown crisis, and her condition started going downhill and fast. I mean, frighteningly fast. For the medical team, this wasn't just about managing her pain anymore. No, they were in a fight to literally keep her alive.
When she showed up at the ER, she had all the classic signs of a severe black widow bite, but everything was turned up to 11. We're talking about absolutely excruciating muscle cramps, a headache that was probably blinding, and her vital signs? They were just completely off the charts. Her body was in total shock. You'd hope she would start to stabilize, but that's not what happened. Over the next few hours, things actually got worse. And then came a really scary development. She started wheezing really, really badly. She was struggling for every single breath. This wasn't just about venom anymore. It had turned into a respiratory emergency. She had to be rushed to the ICU immediately.
And this is where things get even more complicated. Here's the kicker. The patient had a known history of asthma, so the doctors are thinking the venom is setting off this massive allergic reaction, basically causing her airways to start closing up. Her own underlying condition was taking a bad situation, a venom problem, and turning it into a full-on breathing crisis.
So this puts the medical team at a huge crossroads, right? Their patient is in the ICU, she can barely breathe, and they have to make a massive call on what to do next. And believe me, there were absolutely no easy answers here.
Now, to really get why they were in such a tough spot, you have to understand what this venom actually does to your body. It's a neurotoxin. It basically hijacks your nervous system and makes it fire completely out of control. And that's what was causing all those violent muscle spasms, the racing heart, and her sky-high, dangerous blood pressure.
So, the big question for the doctors was this. What do you do? Do you go for the silver bullet, the antivenom, which can directly neutralize the venom? Or do you play it safer? Just manage the symptoms and hope her body can fight off this massive dose of toxin by itself.
In that risk-reward calculation they had to make, it's just terrifying to think about. On one hand, the antivenom could shut down the venom, stop the whole crisis right at the source. But, and this is a huge but, it also carries a really high risk of anaphylaxis. That's a massive allergic reaction. So giving her a drug that could potentially make her throat close up even more, well, that was a gamble that could literally be a death sentence.
In the end, they just decided the risk was too high. They ruled out using the antivenom. Instead, they went with supportive care, which basically means you treat the symptoms and do everything you can to help the body survive while it fights the venom itself. So they gave her morphine for the unbelievable pain, lorazepam to calm the muscle spasms, and of course, they were watching her breathing like a hawk.
So, how did that high-stakes decision actually play out? With the antivenom, the direct counteragent, off the table, the patient's fate pretty much rested entirely on her own body's strength to recover, with a lot of help from a very, very careful medical team.
And you know what? Amazingly, their cautious approach actually worked. By day 2 in the hospital, her breathing was back to normal, her lungs were clear, and that awful muscle pain that had been so intense, it was just gone. By the third day, she was well enough to be moved out of the ICU and then discharged to go home. An incredible turnaround.
Now, just to put into perspective how completely bizarre this case is, let's just look at the numbers for a second. In the US, we see about 2,600 black widow bites every year, and almost every single one of those is an accident, you know? Someone's reaching into a woodpile or a dark corner without really looking.
And the clinicians who actually wrote up this case report, I think they put it best. They noted that, yeah, accidental bites happen all the time, but a deliberate injection for recreational purposes, that is an extreme outlier. It's something you just almost never see in the medical books.
So what made this case so incredibly severe? Well, it was really a perfect storm of factors. First, injecting it straight into her bloodstream meant it bypassed all the body's natural defenses. Second, the dose was massive, not from a single bite, but from the entire spider. And finally, her pre-existing asthma created this unique vulnerability that the venom just perfectly exploited.
Ultimately, this whole shocking story is just a powerful reminder of the insane risks people sometimes take in the search for a new high. And it kind of leaves us with a really tough question, doesn't it? In a world full of designer drugs, what drives someone to turn to something so primal? And what does it say about the lengths people will go to just to chase that altered state of consciousness?